hello, it is Carsman50 from the Hardware Diversity Discussion, and we've got episode 19 of the Hardware Diversity Podcast. We've been trying to record this multiple occasions, but we finally nailed down how this is all going to work out. And before we get on to, we'll get on to the guest first. This is my good friend of mine, Jonothan Davies. How are you going?
I'm going pretty good. It's my day off, so pretty decently. So I'm enjoying the day off. It's cold and overcast in Wellington, so it's pretty decent weather at the moment.
Yes, at least I don't have to put up with any time delays with trying to get in touch with people all over the world. I've always done that, and it's just been. It's good to talk with international guests, but it's always good to get back to the local people and people I haven't had a chat to in a while. So exactly. It's all good.
And to know that when you're awake, they're awake, and not unless there are people that sleep in until the afternoon. But most of the time, it's pretty decent to know. About local time and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's definitely.
It would be a nightmare to if you lived in the East Coast of America and then having to do something over on the West Coast and just that time delay.
Yeah, no, they were thinking about putting another time zone in New Zealand, I think, but it's only
there's a second time. There is a second time zone.
Yeah, it's like half an hour difference or something.
Yes, but it's down in Stewart Island.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of odd how they do that, but
it's really bizarre. But
yeah, it's there, and it's the main thing. But anyway, I guess before we get started and get into introductions and things like that, I just want to quickly hang on a sec. That's not the right screen. I wanted
because technology is great.
Of course it is. It never could be any better.
Exactly.
There we go. That's better. Exactly. Okay, all right. We want to advertise my Facebook group, Hardware Talk New Zealand, where you can get in touch with Kiwis and Aussies and some international people alike. And
we should ban all the Aussies. We don't need any Aussies on the group, okay?
No, I've got a good friend of mine who's Australian, and he sort of influenced me to start the group, so we can't exactly ban him.
But Australians, they're not good. They will most likely start a war against New Zealand at some point or another.
No. We're fine. So come and join the group. I'll put a link in the description as always. Come and say hi and learn about technology and all that sort of good stuff.
I'm on it as well. So that's another good thing. I'm on it as well.
Yes. It's always good to catch up and hear people's thoughts about what's going on in the current tech world. And I guess that's what we're going to be talking about today. Lots of different things on the table and a bit of different stuff at the end as always. So I guess before we get into the news and things, a little bit about yourself, what you've sort of achieved technology wise, and what's got you into YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So just a bit about yourself.
So let's see. I'm a film director. I make short films, long films, YouTube productions. The main thing I got into YouTube was so I could have a platform to basically produce all of my films that I have made and put them up there. The only problem is that if you're looking at another YouTube channel that does it similar to what I want to do in the future, Viva, do you know Viva? The New Zealand YouTube.
I can't say I've been aware of such channel.
So they're based up in Auckland, and they make great hits like Epic, NBC Man. They do a running tech shop gag called
Viva. I know Viva. Yes, of course. Yeah. Sorry,
they just hit 1 million. They just hit 1 million subscribers. So of course you should know them.
Yes.
So we've got to be proud of New Zealanders doing that sort of thing in the YouTube world. But anyway, that's the sort of thing that I want to get done. But just timings and skills and resources. It takes time. As most things, it just takes time and effort and obviously a lot of money. So.
I mean, you're certainly aspiring to, you've got a lot of gear and you're certainly aspiring to get people involved. And I've seen by, what you've wanted to, be involved with, your particular pages and things like that. There's a lot of want to get that sort of stuff started up.
Yes, because one person can't do it. It's a team effort.
Exactly.
It's you need people to give you input and to receive input from both parties. So if you can get those sorts of people on board, then absolutely, it's a great sense of achievement when you can manage to do something great with multiple people.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with having volunteers certainly at the start, and also just spending your past times doing it, because you got to start somewhere. And
yes,
and you can have all the great. Oh no, carry on.
But the other thing is that not everyone wants to work for free.
Oh, exactly.
So,
and that's the thing. It's the thing with art, isn't it? People who get into arts, it's just like, people think, I should get paid. And yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, paying for your time. But it's like, if you're a volunteer organisation and like you don't have a publishing company or anything to help you out, you sort of go, well, it's self-funded, and like if you can make any money off it, that's a plus. But otherwise, it's just there because it's a hobby, and
exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But you've just got to realise and make sure that that's sort of part of the agreement, I guess.
Yes, but I mean, I'm always the person that because I would want to be paid if I had to do something like that.
Of course, yeah.
I would expect, so other people should expect to be paid as well. So, so that's pretty much my world in film. I also built my own personal editing computer because I needed a computer. Nowadays, it's just connected up to my TV to be a gaming computer. Mainly because there's not enough space to put up a dedicated desk and have my own editing rig. But I do editing on my TV because my TV happens to be color accurate. So there's always that big win about it all. And it's a big screen, so it's a double win. Unlike how you have small screens on desktop. But I mean,
without paying large amounts of money for a decent monitor. I mean, I've certainly you can spend thousands of dollars on a color accurate screen, and like and that's good. But like, if you don't have a good enough monitor, then it's like if you're trying to do color work, then it's just
Like I like using a keyboard. You really need to if you're going to sit on the couch, you really need a wireless keyboard because you can't have a wired cable, and wires get annoying everywhere. And I also have wireless controllers as well. Makes life a lot easier when you're wanting to game than trying to have a bulky keyboard on your lap. And
I mean that can restrict the games that you can play, I guess, but like I think eventually at some point you probably will build yourself a second system to live beside the telly, and then have your main desktop as your editing station again, because that's sort of the route that I'm going to be going down as well in the near future.
I mean, it's just a dream, but it's should be a close enough dream.
I think when you get yourself another place, by the sounds of it, for sure. The conversations we've had. Yeah.
So,
any other tech sort of news or video announcements or anything you want to sort of put out to the world about your upcoming stuff?
About me, I'm doing 48 hours, so got a good team behind me, and we're going to probably do something pretty good. Tech-wise, I mean, I would like to be able to build something, but I mean, I'm not that technological person. I'm more of a creative person myself, so I like storytelling and telling stories and dreaming, and
you've got to have that person. Like you've got to have
exactly.
You've got to have if you've got to have the ideas man, and then you've got to have someone who makes it work. To actually
exactly.
Yeah, and as I said, there's nothing wrong with being that type, because there's got to be that, because the people that makes it work, they've got to be inspired, and if you're not inspired, then it's it doesn't really work, and that's where you get your ideas bad from. So exactly right.
Lots of people have been inspired by Iron Man. Look at the US Army. They've been trying to build Iron Man suits for nearly half a decade now. So yeah, you never know. Movies inspire lots of people. Look at Star Trek, for example. That managed to inspire people to make touch screens and Bluetooth devices and all kinds of those things that we just take for granted nowadays. That's they came up with that back in the 80s on a sci-fi TV show. So exactly. It's interesting what's going to happen in another 20 years with the sci-fi stuff coming out now. So.
And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So I guess we'll move on to what's currently out there, and I'm not sure if you know too much about that, I guess, but I guess Nvidia is powering on the graphics card company, who has got a lot of market share because of how they go about their marketing and all that kind of thing. But we've got their lowest end unit called the GTX 1650, and that's powered by their Turing architecture, which was famously talking about ray tracing and all this sort of thing. But this is a low-end model, and because it's a GTX, not the RTX branding, it doesn't have the RT functions. But I'm really curious to review is who's actually buying these things, because they're no better than the last generation products, and they're more expensive. They may have a slightly lower power consumption, but it's sort of but it's the performance is not there, and it's so why would you want to buy something that's more expensive, not quite the same performance, and just, as I said, is more expensive than the old 1050 series cards? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what do you think? Sure, they're actually it's new, and it would probably be supported longer and all that kind of things. It would be good for a HTPC, if you want to stream videos from it. Doesn't really do much for gaming wise, but it's got
most of the I think it's probably going to go into one of the new I think it's a precursor for one of the new graphics cards that they're going to eventually chuck into probably the next gen consoles, because the way that Nvidia loves doing it is that they always bring out their graphics cards, they always try testing out the graphics cards with the computer community, and then they decide to chuck. And then when Sony or Microsoft want to come and get a new graphics card for their next gen console, then Nvidia has a well-marketed, well-tested graphics card. And by the
I'd like to stop you there for just a wee second. It's actually AMD that builds the consoles.
Just AMD? I thought Nvidia.
Yes. No. They've been in. AMD has been in touch with Sony and Microsoft since the original Xbox One and the PS4. they've built all the hardware that's been inside them since then. Yeah. No, I know it's hard to believe, eh? You know,
I thought Nvidia was dealing with all that.
Oh, well, there you go. I suppose you've learnt your first sort of thing today. But no, Nvidia hasn't ever made a console other than the Shield TV box and the Switch.
But that flopped pretty badly.
And the Switch is Nvidia powered.
That might be where I was getting my misinformation, because the Switch is actually bringing out two new consoles at E3 this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure you can tell me a little bit more about that towards the end. But anyway, yeah, like this is not really a console. I mean, it's like it's an alternative to what's out there console wise, because obviously, like. They're getting old.
I can't really see any other reason why Nvidia would want to make a more expensive, less grunty device.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Yeah, like it's like at launch, I think that for this card is $10 US more expensive than the previous generation, and it's about as powerful, if not slightly less powerful, than the 1050 Ti or the 1050. I think it slots in between the two there. And it's got the same amount of RAM on it.
Wouldn't you really say is the size then? You're getting you're getting a smaller graphics card, well, physically smaller, for probably about the same amount of power out of it, or out of it.
Actually, I can look at that right here. The GTX 1650, which has got a 200mm squared chip, and the 1050 Ti is 130 square millimeter chip. So you're actually getting a slightly bigger card. So you're paying for more silicon than you were on the compared to the previous generation. So that's kind of interesting.
There's no real reason to have it then.
No, not really. Like, as I said, like you're not even getting RTX features. You're getting the same sort of power draw, the same sort of performance, but you're paying more because you're getting a bigger chip. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Not really, but I mean, if you're paying more for a slightly smaller chip, so you could put it in slightly smaller. For example, if someone was trying to build a site, was trying to restrict their size on their gaming case that they were buying, and they wanted to get a smaller chip, then I could see why this device would be brilliant for that. But if it's the same size, or if even just a bit bigger than the previous models, then just go for the previous model. Get more bang for your buck.
Exactly. And plus, like the old, like the 1050s and the 1050 Ti's are obviously they're probably starting to go into the second-hand market as well.
Exactly.
So you could probably pick them up cheaper again, and like they're not that old. I mean, they're a couple of years old, but like in terms of performance, worse. So it's like, why would you? I don't know. It just doesn't. I mean, the only thing I can think of would be like their laptops. I guess like Nvidia do a lot of laptop stuff. So like that's probably where they're possibly going to go in terms, like an alternative to having integrated graphics. You could have that as like a side GPU that would just be a little bit better than what you'd get like on, integrated graphics. But like, it wouldn't. To me, like in terms of the price of performance, you wouldn't be getting much more. Like you'd be paying a lot more, but you wouldn't be getting much more. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like comparing the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Slim. It's like they're just a bit smaller, and the Slim's a lot more expensive than just the original. And it's like there's no difference in graphic.
I mean, I think you do get a slightly, like the PS4 to the PS4 Pro. You do get slightly better performance.
No, the Pro is a lot different compared to the original PS4. The Pro offers 4K when the just the original offers 1080 as its maximum.
Yeah, even though you can't play games at 4K, like it still looks a little bit better because they upscale it, sort of thing. But yeah, I get what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, but going from the PS4 to the PS4 Slim, which is the middle ground, which is the second one, the Pro's the third one that they brought out. The Slim is just a little bit smaller, so you get a bit more space conservative, but that's about it. Yeah. You're not really buying a lot more.
No. It's sort of just like they're trying to come up with a replacement to something that's already there. It's
exactly,
like there's no reason to get that. But I guess we'll move into the second part of this Nvidia quick fire bit, and let's talk about RTX in general. Have you been following too much about what ray tracing is about and what it's been doing and how it's done, and I assume because you're possibly that way inclined in terms of the artistic style of graphics, you might have heard a little bit more about that and what your thoughts are.
Ray tracing is more for animation side
Correct.
Of things.
Yes.
Than what I mainly do. But I mean, I've got a few friends who constantly need good machines to do ray tracing and especially rendering on top of that.
Yep.
So it's definitely good when a graphics card can definitely be a lot better with ray tracing and rendering. But then again, you can always fall into the problem of you either have a really good graphics card or the software can't even handle it, e.g. Premiere Pro and many of Adobe's products can't. They are good, but they just can't. If the machine can't handle the quality, then the software bugs out. And if the machine can be so good, sometimes the software actually bugs out without the machine bugging out. So,
yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot. Like, obviously, I don't know if you saw the Star Wars demo when they released the RTX cards last year. Actually, it's almost been a year since they've been announced. The RTX series of cards, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that was really quite impressive. And obviously, there's been a few CryEngine's just done a demo with some ray tracing. That looks really, really good.
You can't go wrong with CryEngine. CryEngine is probably one of my favorite engines.
Yeah, it's like I love their model of being free until you start making money from it. Then you can then you have to pay the royalties to them. But like,
exactly.
it's a really good. If you want to play around and mess around with 3D animation and game engine stuff like that, that's really, really cool to see. But yeah, they just did a ray tracing demo, and it's a little bit behind what a dedicated ray tracing system looks like, but it certainly looks a lot better than just standard rasterization, I think they call it, which is just 3D space textures that actually look, so like it's getting better for sure. And like,
it's definitely getting better.
As we're getting,
which means that if that's going to get better, then we're going to have better VR games coming out.
Yes, that's like I think once we get ray tracing in VR, that's going to look very, very cool.
Because as soon as VR can't be handled at the moment by most graphics cards, and once they manage to, it's as good as it is at the moment, but I mean, it can everyone has dreams of it being even better than what it is.
I'm sure it will. It's still very early on in development. That's for sure.
It is very early on. But I mean, it would be great to sort of know in the next 5 years when they manage to create ray tracing that's just as good, they can handle VR and what that sort of will look like. So. And
I think I think Nvidia said they've taken 10 years to develop this technology of running ray tracing. And it's like, it's still in beta, really, essentially. Like it's not a final product by any stretch of the imagination.
Absolutely.
And like as we go forward, I think hopefully AMD gets onto that bandwagon as well.
Oh, AMD will definitely. AMD is noticeably really well known for duplicating what Nvidia does, and sometimes Nvidia copies what AMD does. But
Correct.
that's just competition and trying to stay ahead of the game. So.
Yeah, and I think
AMD. Do you want to speak about the next graphics card?
Yeah. This is the next. Yeah, well, I suppose we'll move on to the next bit. This is talking about Zen 2. I'm very, very excited and passionate about the next architecture that AMD is going to be putting out for their CPUs, and 7nm is going to be hopefully huge clock speeds, massive core counts, and just it's going to hit Intel where it hurts. I hope anyway, because I've been far too what do you want to call it, complacent for too long, I think. But it's due to be out probably in the second half of this year, so it's very close now. Computex is at the end of May, so about 2 weeks as of the time of recording.
Yeah, we probably will see something in E3, to be honest.
I think that's going to be where the next graphics card's going to be launched, because you're due to launch new graphics. But we're going to talk about that very soon. Don't get ahead of ourselves too much. But we'll talk about the graphics cards very soon. But there's been motherboards spotted for the next generation chipset motherboards. So this is going to be specifically for Zen 2, and it looks really good. I'm liking the look of that already, just by seeing the heatsink on the South Bridge. This is a WCCF Tech article, so you can take a little bit with salt, as you always do with some of these rumours and leaks and all that kind of thing. But there's been a fair bit of leaking of information regarding the Zen 2 specifications the last sort of few months. Adored TV did a very good one late last year, but there's been a engineering sample that's just been launched, but just been leaked, and it's going to be a quad core 8 thread 3.6 and a 3.8 turbo boost, but I think it's going to be it's a very low end part. And it looks like it might not be even part of the final release, because they're looking to up the core counts considerably from what they have nowadays. But it's running on this new MSI motherboard, as you can see above, so that looks really, really good. Are you excited for having potentially upgrading your system, because it looks like they will be compatible, well, they promise to be backwards compatible to what current X370, X470 motherboards currently have. Can slot a new CPU in there, should be no problem. But that's what they said from day one.
That should be good. That should be really good, because I'm looking at the picture now, and it's looking quite like one of those alien monoliths or something like that.
I don't know if you've seen the MSI those MEG creation motherboards that are out there at the moment. They look really, really good, and if MSI is putting a lot of effort and design and research into putting that into their mainstream chipset platform, they're obviously taking Zen 2 quite seriously, and hopefully it's going to be a good board to take. Hopefully they're looking at 16 cores at 5 gigahertz going forward, so that's going to be. I mean, what do you think about pricing? What would you be prepared to pay for that sort of?
It probably would be around a couple thousand. I probably wouldn't say it would be too expensive.
They're looking they're looking at probably about $500 for that chip. Maybe that's what the leaks have been saying and all that kind of thing. But so that's probably about $1,100.
If it's going for about 5, then it could be just on as par as many of the CPUs that are out there at the moment. So,
sorry, what were you trying to say there?
it will probably be on the same sort of strength as the Mini of its price range, unless they decide to just make it cheap so that it could be for more consumer.
Well, it's definitely for it's not their Threadripper range, which is their high-end desktop platform that's designed for like workstations and all that kind of thing. So that's where the expensive stuff is. But this is mainstream. You know, anyone can go and buy it off the shelf, and it wouldn't cost more than maybe $1,000 kind of thing. So it's sort of
will probably be one of those middle ground sort of chips. Between
16 cores.
Probably.
What do you mean? What do you mean middle of the ground?
No, I mean compared to the Threadrippers, right?
So if your Threadrippers are
high, if the Threadripper is the high range, right, and then you've got your current ones, which are probably what you can consider your low range. Then this is probably middle of the ground compared to both of those. Yeah. That's what I mean by middle range,
right.
But it's probably going to be on the high end of the middle ground than on the low end. So, or even the mid end of everything. So it should be pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at probably getting 12 cores. Looking at doing a 12-core model as well. So I think it'll be a nice upgrade over 8, which we both have at the moment.
Yeah.
So that would be quite nice to see where that goes. But we don't have long to find out because
12 would be good.
Yeah.
But I mean, will it be noticeably faster? Who knows? I mean,
well, that's where the single core performance. You know, they're looking at increasing that by about 10 to 25% over what they currently have. So, hopefully, that would mean that.
Yeah, does that mean if you can you run multiple games? Who knows?
Potentially. I mean, like a lot of games don't use more than 4 to 6 cores now. Anyway, I mean, so like you might be able to, you might have a little bit of spare headroom to run another game as well. But that's more talking about server side things, really. I mean, if you want to use a game server or something like that, then maybe you could run more than one at once. But I'm thinking more like the rendering horsepower of that thing should be really impressive.
Be decent. It should be able to cut at least half an hour of most rendering. Maybe, but you never know.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't have, as I said, they're due to be announced at least in 2 weeks.
Okay, so we should get some more information then. So.
Yeah, exactly right. So I guess it's going to move on to the graphics cards as well. They're going to be launching new models of graphics cards. Hopefully, they'll be looking at the same time, or probably E3. They might talk about them then.
Yeah, probably E3.
But because anyway,
are you looking forward for E3? Should be really good with the stuff that's.
I don't really follow much in the way of games. I'm not really.
Okay. Do you follow more on the hardware that gets released at E3?
Yeah, more so. Yeah, I think that's more of where I'm at in terms of like, I don't play a lot of. I mean, I look for, if they're good, I might pick them up on sale or whatever. But like, I don't pick up a lot of games day one anymore. I'm just.
Okay.
But
yeah, I mean, there are some games that aren't that good. But I mean, with me being a person that's fond story, I'm always pretty good with trying to find something that's decent. But then, depending if this graphics card will be pretty good, that will definitely do the immersiveness will be a lot stronger and a lot better than most.
I mean. As I said in this article by Forbes, they're looking to put this new graphics architecture that they're going to be launching very soon into the next generation consoles.
Okay, you mean Navi?
Navi, yeah. It's looking at PS5 and the new Xbox as well. It's going to have these chips, and hopefully, they said they're possibly looking at like some very basic form of ray tracing in them as well. Even though it's not going to be hardware supported, it might be software supported. And they're looking at the performance level. Oh, sorry, carry on.
So, if it's going to be basic ray tracing, then it's just going to mean that Nvidia should have beaten AMD to the punch and offered one of the two brands their ray tracing in order for one of the consoles to be even better than the other one. But you never know. It could be the same thing as Xbox One versus PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on... Like the one...
like the Xbox One was designed as a media center over the PlayStation 4, which was designed solely as a gaming thing. So we're not sure if Microsoft's going to learn from that and just focus heavy on the gaming side of things. But then again, what was it? Your predictions for the next name of the Xbox? Do you have a prediction?
I don't know. I haven't really. I think Sony have been a lot more open about this. That it's definitely going to be the PlayStation 5. The Xbox, they've been keeping that quite close to their chest, in terms of what they really want to let the public know about that sort of thing. But
the only thing we really do know about we don't really know a lot about what the Xbox, whatever the next new Xbox is going to be called, or even what it's got in it, because Microsoft is really closed off about it. But at least we know about what the PlayStation 5 has got, especially with AMD and their partnership and
Microsoft will definitely be continuing their partnership with AMD. I mean, like obviously they released the Xbox One, came out before the PS4. Not quite much, but it was certainly before that, and I think they both definitely have their contracts with AMD. So it's like, I'm not sure they're a bit dope. So just what variation of the hardware that will be available to them, they'll have inside, I guess, is what will. But in terms of the desktop hardware that we'll be getting for the gaming side of things, they're looking at possibly GTX 1080 level performance out of the new architecture, and hopefully a lot lower price. Because they're using a lot smaller chips, they'll be looking at possibly lower power draw and lower cost. And they should actually be quite competitive, we hope, because and obviously they're going to have the product stack below the 1080 as well. You know, they're looking at so they're looking at the top end, which is their Vega 7. I don't know if you looked at the Vega 7 or not, but that's the really high-end workstation type card that's based off their server stuff. That's like their GTX 1080 Ti level performance. Then they've got the 1080, and then they're going to bring this new architecture in that's going to be like 1080 and below. That's kind of interesting. The price, we don't really know a lot about what they're going to be doing in terms of and as I said, there's been a lot less information floating around about what the potential, like what actually is going to be in it versus what Zen's been leaking, and what we've found out about that sort of stuff. But I think that should be cheaper. AMD has always been cheaper. The performance should be a little bit behind their top end compared to Nvidia, as it historically has been.
You don't think AMD is going to try and beat Nvidia this year?
I mean, no. They haven't been for a long time. They haven't really tried to compete. I mean, since 2013 was the last time that they actually bet Nvidia in terms of like the very top end. But they just don't have the money. They're like their research and development, budget is about the same as what Nvidia makes in a year.
Yeah,
so like their total research and development, their total worth of what they can actually put into something is what Nvidia makes in a year. So that gives you a sense of scale of how small AMD is of a company.
Which is quite surprising because AMD is partnered with both Sony and Microsoft.
Well, that's
Nvidia,
honestly that's what
just sells parts to PC users and to switchers. So
and
then,
their server market is huge.
Yes, that's the other.
As their data center people who they sell their shit to, like their workstation users are a lot. They've got a lot more.
As well as you've got all those people who do the Bitcoining mining. They mostly use Nvidia card.
They were certainly towards the end using more Nvidia stuff because I found that the profit margins on Nvidia cards were a little bit better than what AMD was sort of doing, but a lot of that's fallen over now. A lot of people don't do any of the Bitcoin mining so much on GPUs anyway. They use a lot of the dedicated hardware for that. I think what was getting AMD through was the consoles. If they didn't have those contracts with the Sony and Microsoft, I don't think they'd be around today because their products weren't nearly as good as what they could have been. And
I'm not sure. I don't personally have a lot of friends who do use AMD.
And that's the thing. Their mind share, their market share is so. I mean, it's coming up to about 30%. Compared to Intel, like they're certainly getting up. It was below 10% before. But
then, would you say Intel is beating AMD, or would you say
no? They're behind now. Like a lot of people, they've become too complacent. They released very similar stuff year after year, and people thought, "No, we want to change. We need higher core counts. We need something that's actually cheaper, and we need something that's."
Intel, the only thing you really use Intel for nowadays is those pre-made laptops. Really, you don't. They're not.
I mean, a lot of people. I mean, like the Intel chips are better. Like they are just a better chip. Oh yeah, of course. They always have been, but in terms of AMD catching up and the performance difference between the two is about 20%, 30%.
Yes.
And what you get
if Nvidia and AMD teamed up, they would definitely beat Nvidia by a massive amount.
So if Intel and AMD teamed up, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
they did. Actually,
they did.
They did for one product.
Which product?
I'll get it up on the screen. It's the Hades Canyon NUC. Have you heard of it? Have you heard of it?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing of it.
Oh, you should. Well, they merged a Intel CPU and a AMD GPU onto the same package.
Okay.
Yep, it's a very interesting design, and they didn't do. I mean, they weren't great, and they were very expensive because of the form factor. How small nuts are. Yes. But they actually teamed up together, and it was very very cool to see.
Do you think it bet anything that Nvidia has made?
No. I mean, it was a very custom. It was a very custom chip, and they haven't. They were trying to sell it to laptop manufacturers, so I thought it would be quite a good package to have into a laptop. And I think they should have done a lot more to promote that personally, because it would have been a very good idea to have. But in terms of it was the performance in terms of the GPU side was about the same as a 1060. I was going to say. Right. So it wasn't I mean, obviously it's a very small thing, so you couldn't have a really powerful chip in such a small package. But yeah, it's about about a 1060, not too far behind a 1060 in a laptop. So that would have been. I mean, that's pretty good. There's nothing to complain about there at all. But it's it was very I think for you had to buy it bare bones, so you had to add your own storage and RAM. And I think for the base model, without anything, it was $800 or $900, and then you had to add your own storage and RAM on top of that. So you're looking at probably about $1,200 to $1,500 for a complete system. And it's just it's portable. You can certainly chuck it in your bag and have your power brick with you, and you could just plug it into a monitor, and you'd be away laughing with a reasonably good gaming system. But like,
that's an idea.
But like, I don't know anybody who's owned one, and I think they were giving. I think basically the only people I know who have had one in terms of like on the internet were review samples anyway. So like, I don't think anybody actually bought one, and because they were just expensive for what you got, but because of how small they are. Really, like they're not much bigger than your hand. That's how small the height.
Like what's that other one that's as small as your hand? The Raspberry Pi.
Oh, it's a bit bigger than a Pi because you can fit.
Than a Pi?
Yeah, I mean it's about like it's not like in terms of like it's about the size of a phone, but about twice as thick as like as a big phone. Okay. So like it's quite.
That's pocketable.
Definitely pocketable. Yeah, I mean like, and you just take your power brick. Obviously, it requires external power, so you'd have to like, but like yeah, you could just bring your HDMI cable, your mouse, and your keyboard, and plug it in, and you'd have yourself like a fully fledged i7 gaming computer.
That's pretty good.
So like, but yeah, as I said, it's a couple of years old now, and they didn't sell too well, and you know, but that was AMD and Intel partnering up. It's kind of interesting, but I'm not sure they'll do that again in a hurry. Sadly, but
you know what Intel's doing at the moment? They're not really doing a lot.
They're actually going to be making a graphics card. Believe it or not, yes. They're developing their own GPU. So that's another Forbes article, because they actually hired AMD's chief development person for the graphics division. Intel stole them. They've actually Intel's been hiring a lot of GPU architects over the last few months, and so that's where they're trying to get a lot of development into making their own graphics card. It's not due out till next year. That's been teased, and people are trying to work out what the hell's going to be in it, but there's not a lot of information out there at the moment, because I think they're still really in development in terms of what that's going to be.
Yes, development hell, right?
But so it's actually it's looking like it's going to be they're going to be making sort of workstation type cards and gaming graphics as well.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting actually. Good thing you segued into that. You're very more apt than I am. But they hired 102 people. Over this article was actually made last year, but there's been a little bit more news since then in terms of like they've hired a lot of people, and they're thinking, they've actually got their NUC beside the desktop computer there. That's kind of interesting. But
I see. Yeah.
So it's sort of it's sort of I mean, I think the first model that they're going to put out of their dedicated graphics is going, how they've got integrated graphics on their CPUs already.
Yes.
It's just going to be a scaled up version of that. I think it's going to be just bigger, obviously more powerful than what they have on the integrated. It's not going to be anything new per se, because like they had so little time to develop this and to actually put it into an actual product. But I think from there on in, they'll start changing a lot of stuff, and they might make something quite new and innovative. I'm hoping, because competition is always good, isn't it? Like
it is great. So especially because when you tell one person that you're bringing out this one thing, then they are going to try and beat you with another product. So hopefully,
I'm hoping that maybe they are a little bit, I guess you could say, like affordable as well. That's going to be a big barrier. Like, are they actually going to make them for the masses, or are they going to make them for a very select market of people?
Yes. Well, which is going to definitely test out if they're going to make the money or not, and depending on who they market it to.
Well, because obviously they're losing a lot of market in the server space. AMD is taking up more of their server market share, and also it'd be good to see if because Intel's they've tried graphic stuff before, but it's never really worked out for them. But
exactly.
And it'd be good to see whether they can move into a new space properly, because otherwise they're going to be dwindling, like AMD was about 5 to 10 years ago. They were really on the low end. So whether it's AMD's turn to take the crown or not in terms of the best computer company maker in the world is going to be interesting. But
it's only time can tell on that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I think they talked about it. I don't know when the first news of this graphics card was. I think it was definitely last year. Obviously, this article was made last year, so it's kind of like, it's been a long time in the making. But 2020, they're aiming for it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know.
What places are aiming for 2020? It's like the benchmark year at the moment.
Yeah, like there's going to be a lot of really interesting products in 2020, and I think.
Not just products, but like they've got a lot of events happening in 2020. Like, you've got the Olympic Games, you've got the Commonwealth Games, you've got not only just sport, lots of sport events, you've got a lot of just everything happening on 2020.
They said that 2019 is going to be an interesting year for technology, but I think 2020 is going to be a very interesting year as well. Talking about interesting stuff happening this year and probably moving into next is another Intel piece of news, the last one we've got so far, and that's the Architecture Day that happened reasonably recently. This happened last year, but I think they've had some more stuff since then as well. But they've actually, Intel's doing something quite interesting, because obviously, because of how far they're falling behind, Intel is in their CPU division, they've had to radically change a lot of things, and they're looking at finally doing 3D stacking for their chips on top of chips, which is kind of interesting actually. But this is going to be called...
Phones do it quite frequently already, so it's going to be quite interesting to actually get a 3D mounted PC.
Qualcomm. I don't know if they do 3D stacking. How have you been made aware of... I think they have everything on the one package. That's called.
Yeah.
But no, that's not on top of each other. This is actually physically on top of each other. Yeah, like they're going to... And they've got an example product. I don't know if you see that first picture on that page that I sent you.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the first supposedly working product that they've got that's 3D stacked. So it's got on the bottom obviously that's their package where everything connects together. Then they've got on the first chip is just like a low powered chip.
Yes.
So it's going to be like everything goes through that, to actually work. Then you've got on top of that, like the high end processors, which is like on this particular example, it's their first 10 nanometer chip, which is quite exciting because they've been on 14 nanometers for the last 4 years, and they've delayed 10 nanometers quite a lot. But and then on top of that, they've actually got memory.
Okay.
They've actually got like RAM on the top of the chip. So
what about cooling? How are they going to work out the cooling, I wonder?
Well, if you could scroll down, they've got a fan, a heatsink on top of that. But that's the thing about these 3D stacked chips, is because they're going to be so dense in terms of like their compute power. Is like, how do you cool so much in such a small space?
Oh, I know, right?
And like that's going to be the concern that I certainly expressed when I first heard about this. Was like, how do they actually cool?
I wonder if what they do is when they fully 3D stack the entire motherboard eventually, with all of the with everything. I wonder if they're going to have like wind ducts running right through the center of everything, so like little miniature.
What do you mean by 3D stacking the motherboard?
Like if they 3D stack everything.
Oh, like
stacking this needs at the moment, right?
Like
if they
like the storage and the like the RAM and the graphics all on one chip. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, not just that, but I mean like everything that's on the motherboard, all of the different components. They actually managed to stack everything in this one sort of tight space.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're quite going to do that, because obviously like the power delivery couldn't be on one chip, and the power, the power delivery and like the USB ports couldn't be on one chip. You'd have to have a motherboard around the central unit, central processing.
Exactly.
So
yes.
but
hypothetically, what you could do is you could have valleys and wind channel things go running right through, like sort of like your normal heat sink. How your normal heat sink has multiple slits in it,
fins,
and you have multiple slits between each of the 3D printed or the 3D stacked parts, right?
Oh, so like you'd have like integrated cooling onto the chip. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like you'd actually, instead of having
like little tiny gaps, and then you have what on one side you have this massive array of fans, and then just blowing air right through the whole thing, cooling down the entire system, and that's how you sort out your heating problem.
So like, okay, so how would you then like have the separate chips on top of each other communicating?
Or you would have like so that it would be just one massive lots of little slits, but then on the bottom and the top it would be covered, right? And then the top would be one side of it all. It would be communicating through everything. So the bottom and the top would be communicating between all of the chips, and there's just one little area that's getting the cooling. So it's basically like an open box, right? So you have two ends of the box which are open, and there's fans on one of those open ends, and then in the middle of the area is all of the chips that have been stacked on top of one another, and then also the air will go right through, and then for the chips to communicate with one another, they either go to the roof or the floor of this box, and that's how you do it.
I'm not quite gathering that. You'd have to, but I could sort of see, I think, a little bit, but yeah.
So I think go back to that that diagram with at the moment that's the stacking one, right?
Yeah. I can.
Imagine the package and the memory is the ones that are connected to the chips, and then so the air would rush through the middle of everything, but the chips would be communicating to the bottom and the floor, and then on the other sides there would be like a thing that would communicate the top from the bottom.
Oh, but well, that hypothetical gap that you're talking about would have to be millimeters, like because of how fast the connection speed between everything is. You couldn't put fins. You couldn't put like a heat sink between the two chips because they wouldn't.
No, there wouldn't be any sort of. I mean, there would be a heat sink, but I mean, it's not like your traditional heat sink. How it works. I mean, but it would work similar to how the fins on a heat sink work to cool down the device. But that's just a theory at the moment on how that would work.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, that's not the only thing they've got. They've obviously got some. Going back to the graphics card, they've talked about the graphics card here as well. The XE architecture, which is their graphics chips, and it looks, as I said, it's going to be based on current generation tech. Yeah, so I think that's going to be from 2020 onwards. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what they come up with in terms of that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm sort of not sure about how that's going to go, but yeah, it's
but it's a good thing for them to try out and try new things.
Well, because of how much they're dwindling, they're going to have to take risks.
Exactly,
and that's like
and that might come out better than Nvidia, or it might turn out worse. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
And then we know we just basically had to stick with Nvidia, and Nvidia is king in the end.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that rounds out our actual. We've got a couple of smaller talks, and then we're going to have another small one, and then we're not really going on too long. But anyway. This is more into regular sort of science and tech area, and this is a new single board computer that looks really, really cool. It's called the Atomic Pi, and it's got an Intel quad-core Atom chip on it, and I think they're about how much are they? Yeah, quad-core Atom, yes. $35. Wow. Yeah. So it's I mean it's got serial ports. It's got USB 3, micro SD. Doesn't have built-in storage. That's one of the things that is a little bit against it.
Obviously, you would definitely bring an external hard drive with that.
It's got micro SD, but a lot of these single board computers that come out these days actually have storage built in.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's almost an inconvenience to run a micro SD card, but it's got an Intel quad-core Atom, 2 gigahertz clock speed, 2 gigs of RAM. Hang on, it does have 16 gigs of storage built in. I didn't know that. I lie. Giga Ethernet, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi built in as well. So $35, $30.
That's cheap compared to most of those devices.
Well, especially the high-end ones. You can pay hundreds of dollars for like high-end single board computers.
Exactly. But I mean, the Pi was cheap. The Pi is pretty cheap.
Well, it's the same price as this. That's the thing. Like it's you can buy Raspberry Pis for $35. That's the price that they set. But yeah, I mean it's just there's a lot of performance you can have there. And the heatsink's huge, but that's just because you're running an actual desktop or laptop chip on
exactly
on such a small board. But I would like to get one just to have a play, just to see what you can do.
I'll be wondering to know what sort of operating system you can eventually run on them.
Windows
if it's
10.
Going to be Windows 10?
You can run Windows 10 on it, yes. Yep. Because it's actually an Intel chip, you can run Windows 10 on it.
That's good. Okay, that's pretty good.
But you can run Android, you can run Linux, you can run anything, really, because it's an x86 architecture.
That's impressive. That is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, considering how much.
Because the Pi, you couldn't really run a lot on it. But if this is...
The thing about the Pi, though, compared to a lot of other manufacturers, is because they're one of the first people to do it. They know their hardware very well, and they know how to optimize the software for their hardware. So even though it's like a lower spec board because of the price that you pay, you actually can use that hardware a lot better if you run their software versus like there's other manufacturers out there that are just starting to get into the business because of their hardware just needs to be more optimized. But as time goes on, hopefully there's other manufacturers who will be able to spend more of those resources getting their software running better on what they've produced, I guess is in that sort of sense. But Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see all this competition out there in that space. Yeah, going back to that.
It would be interesting to see in the future if a single-boarded computer will eventually become double or become 3D stacked.
Hopefully. I mean, they're sort of, as I said, they obviously their graphics, their CPU, is sort of all of one package. But yeah, I mean, I think Qualcomm will probably get into 3D stacking. I would imagine that would just save space, and also make possibly things a little bit quicker as well.
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe, but I know, as I said, Intel's getting into it. Then I know AMD will be getting into it very soon, possibly in the next couple of years as well, by the looks of it. So yeah, single board computers are a very interesting space, and I had a good chat with that with someone who is very passionate about them last year. But so that's interesting to see a very cheap, very high performing single board computer.
You know any other single board computers that are coming out at the moment?
I just saw a piece of not really in the high end. I mean, there's lots of mid-range sort of stuff. There's nothing really that's high end. As I think I had a chat to that guy last year about what's coming out this year, some high end ones, and they've come out already, and they're impressive, but like they're very, very expensive compared to this.
Yeah. Yes, they probably would be honest.
But this is definitely good value for money if you can get your hands on one. That's for sure. Yeah. The last piece of science and technology news before we move on to a little bit of extra discussion is a very interesting motherboard. I don't know if you looked at that already.
The S-Rock, AS-Rock.
Yeah,
yes.
AS-Rock, yeah.
AS-Rock.
Now, I wish I had a better picture of the sense of scale. But basically, they made a motherboard that's ITX. I don't know if you're familiar with the ITX form factor. That's basically got one expansion slot, and and
isn't that a bit bad though? Which, I mean, if you want to use more, you want to expand it more, wouldn't you want it to have at least two?
Oh, but there's MATX, which has got 4 expansion slots. Then there's ITX, that's got 1, and there's ATX, and then there's bigger than ATX as well that you can get. But these are just for very small builds, very small computers. But this is a server grade. Oh, there's a picture of it down there actually. A server grade ITX motherboard.
Okay.
Look at it. Look at the size of the. I mean, that's a high-end server chip. You know, you can fit a 28-core Xeon on that particular ITX motherboard. But look at the size.
So I wonder if you could eventually you could actually put that other, what's that other graphics card that you were talking what's it was called, that other CPU, the Zen 2. Wonder if you could put the Zen 2 on it.
Oh no, this isn't Intel only. No, they're not cross compatible anyway. No, you can't do that. But there's obviously Zen 2 based server stuff. There's Zen 2 based Threadripper stuff that's possibly coming next year. But this is just their server. Like there's 28 cores, 205 watt chips. I mean, that's insane. Like why would ASRock make a motherboard that does that? Why? Why do you want a small server that's gonna be such a high power
space wise? Nowadays, lots of so you have lots of servers wanting lots of room. So if you can make a server computer that's a lot a lot smaller, then you could eventually have even more servers in less amount of space. So that's eventually better off in the long term.
But like, how much heat? It's just
depends. Depending, it will probably be in a temperature and cold environment.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
It probably won't be
but like
left up in the heat or something like that.
No. But like it would have a heatsink on it, of course. But like, Jesus Christ, like they've done it with like gaming stuff as well. Like they've made really small motherboards for like really high end gaming CPUs and stuff like that. But like, I don't know why you'd want a motherboard like that. Like,
well, at least we know one thing: they excel at making things tiny. So
they do, and they go a little bit above and beyond sometimes. But it's just like, it's craziness. Like, I don't know who would want to buy that. Really, like, it's
probably just people that want tiny things.
Yeah,
I don't know. There are probably people out there that want small things. So
I wish I knew a price for this. Doesn't look like
it'll probably be closer to your to the other high range stuff that came out this year, probably upwards from a couple hundred. I wouldn't expect it to be the same price as the I forgot what the other one's called that you were just talking about like a few minutes ago.
Oh, the Zen 2 based stuff. Oh, it's going to be
not the Zen 2.
Oh, the 3D
Atom,
stacked. I'll be more expensive than that. These motherboards will be a lot more expensive. Yeah,
but I mean, the Atom is super cheap, but I mean, yeah, it definitely should be more expensive than $35.
Oh, of course it will be. These will probably be maybe $200 or $300. I'm gonna say maybe. Yeah, I don't know how. But it's just like the socket's just so big. Like, that's why I was quite crazy. Like, it's just like, man, I don't know. Like, it's just wow. I don't know why they would do that, but good on them, I guess. That's all I can say. Congratulations for making something that's that small. But
maybe in the future we'll have computers on tables with that size of technology.
Yeah, maybe we will. I don't want this. Yeah, we're sort of going to be running out a little bit of time, I guess, a little bit. So we can't. I think we'll skip over the future technologies bit today.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, because but yeah. So I think we'll get into the 4K discussion because this has been a bit of a running theme on the channel ever since this podcast was initiated. Probably about 3 years ago now. I sort of asked guests about their ideas on what 4K means to them and what is actually a good standard. Do you use it? Why do you use it? Why do you think it's a good thing? Why do you think it's a bad thing? And it's sort of like, because it's just like, is it? I don't know, because I've always been in the camp that it's not really. I don't see it necessary. But as time progresses, I think my opinions have slightly changed a bit. But
I'm in the same camp as you.
Right.
I'm someone that makes movies. The only thing, I mean, most software these days can't handle 4K.
It's getting a lot better. Definitely getting a lot better.
It is. But to be honest with you, if you want to get good quality in filming wise, you would film things in 8K. You'd do like a wide something on a wide lens in 8K. Then you can zoom in and you can do all of your panning shots and all of those shots in 1080 and get the 1080 quality out of them, but you actually shot the whole thing on a wide in 8K. So even though you shot it on really high intense film, you'll still be able to go in there and get really crisp images quite close up. That's probably the only reason why you would really need 4K. But honestly, not your your eyes can't tell the difference between 4K and 8K. It's physically impossible.
Depends on I've got a counter argument to that. It depends on the screen size, doesn't it? If you're putting it on, on a massive screen, then it's like
No. If you have the same if you have a 1080 on a 1080 monitor that's the size of a movie theater projector, then it will look fine. If you have a 1080 on a 8K projector, then you're going to notice something.
Yes, you are. Yes, exactly.
But as long as the quality is the same, like for example, I'll use Avengers Endgame for example. You watch Avengers Endgame on 1080 on a 10 quality at 1080 on a 1080 projector. But
hello. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you're back.
Sorry, not sure what happened.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you're back. I think.
I'm back. Okay. What was I talking about before I was cut off?
Avengers Endgame on a movie theater. Different resolutions on different screen sizes.
So you'll experience the same if it's watched on a 1080 projector because your mind doesn't know any different. But if you watch it on a 4K projector and then you go back and watch the same film on a 1080 projector, so the 4K was watched on the film was a 4K film on a 4K projector, then you go watch it on a 1080 at 1080 on a 1080 projector, you're going to notice some difference. But honestly, if you watch whatever one you watch first, you won't honestly be able to tell the difference.
Well, because I remember a website that I went to a couple of years ago, and it was about, it's probably, I don't know if I haven't been able to find it since, but it was about the screen size versus the resolution versus how far away you're sitting from the screen for you to tell the difference between different resolutions. And it was quite fascinating because some of them had to sit very close to be able to tell the difference.
Yes.
And it's and that's what I think, because that's why a lot of 4K monitors that are just for your desktop are a 27-inch monitor. You can't tell the difference between that and lower resolutions at that screen size. But you've got a 4K TV, I can, you can kind of, if you've got 4K content for it, you probably could, and you set maybe a couple of feet away from it, a couple.
But the problem is that there's not a lot of 4K content out there. I mean, maybe in the future.
Blu-rays?
Because what we used to have this quality code SD, which stands for standard definition. Then we moved into HD, and then that's where we get the 1080.
Well, it's 720p first.
Yeah, 720.
And then the full high definition, which is 1080p.
So the full high definition that's not a thing. That's just advertising.
No, it's actually called full high definition. It's actually it's actually a standard, because you tell between HD, standard HD and full high definition. Obviously, it's two different resolutions. So
not really. You don't. It's not really. It's more to do the fact between the 1080 and the 8. What was it? Is it 820? No,
720.
720. Oh yeah, it's 720. But yeah, that's the sort of difference between. That's the resolution. HD is just it's probably about the same sort of thing, but it's kind of two different measurements. It's like comparing what do you call it? It's like comparing foot and foot and meters. It's two different types of measuring the same thing, pretty much.
Oh, I mean, yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
But yeah, anyway, in long term, there are probably going to be future things that are going to require 4K. But at the moment, probably not for another 5 years or so. 1080 is probably still going to be the best quality that we can have at the moment.
Well, it's not the best quality.
It's not just the best quality.
It's the most accessible and the most widely available. But I'd give it. I mean, a lot of things. It's Netflix, Blu-rays, games are coming out in 4K because they didn't have that before.
Exactly. But the problem is that you can go all the way back to a TV that we had when we were growing up. We can still watch the same things, but at a lesser quality. And
exactly. But
the movie doesn't change anything. It's just the way it looks. So it depends. It really depends.
Yeah, but it's definitely a personal perception. Yeah, definitely.
It is. It's a personal decision if you want to watch something in 8K, in 4K, in 1080, in 720, or whatever. You could even prefer things to watch in 360 if you really wanted to.
Or
360.
Yeah, 360p. Yeah, or 480p, or
exactly.
And it depends on what you want. If you've got like a video player still, or
exactly.
No,
they're not video player. They're called VHS player.
VHS players, yeah, or like
we have to make sure the people that are watching don't.
Or like a DVD, like an old, the first DVDs and stuff that were not quite high definition. They were between high definition and standard definition. Yeah, so that's exactly right. You got anything you want to talk about games just quickly before you're looking forward to?
Not really. I'm looking forward to what sort of games they show at E3, mainly for the storyline and seeing what good stories come out of it. Because I'm really excited to know what they bring out for Borderlands 3, because I'm a big, huge fan of the Borderlands series. So I can't wait to see number 3 and how that will eventually done. Also, going back to the quality, I think it's going with gaming. You definitely notice a lot difference with quality-wise than you do with anything else.
Yes, because you act like
with gaming.
You've cut off again.
Anything else? Oh, sorry. The gaming compares on the quality of the hardware that's being used over anything else.
Yeah, and it requires a lot of horsepower to run 8 million pixels per second.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll probably do a roundup of E3 in another podcast in the future, I'd say. So I think it'd be interesting to see what they bring out. Is it June?
Exactly.
Or is it August, isn't it? August?
No. It's next month.
It is next month. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'll talk about E3 in another podcast. Maybe if you want to.
Next podcast, probably.
I don't know. Well, it might not be done by then, but yeah, we'll see.
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably
but
not.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jonathan. You got any?
No, that's all right. It's my pleasure. Hopefully, everything gets sorted great.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of doing these again because it used to be a lot more consistent, but as content always is, it's sort of like it just comes and goes with ideas and inspiration. So, yeah. Well,
I'm still trying to get things sorted on my YouTube channel. So, you know.
Yeah, I know how you feel. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Don't forget to rate, comment, vote, subscribe, and make sure you follow Mr. Jonathan here on his social media platform. I'll have his links in the description as always. And if you want to close this out, go ahead.
Thanks for joining us on Hardware Talks with Parsman 50.
Thank you very much. It's episode 19, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out for now. Bye-bye.